Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching this India Today CII post-budget special discussion, and over the next 1 hour we will take a very close look at budget and what it means. Has the focus really been to try and rejig the image of the Modi Sarkar as a government that is not a suit-boot ki sarkar? Let me introduce you to our panelists for this special program, starting with Union Minister for Power, Piyush Goyal, who everybody clapped for in Parliament today. So it's great to have you with us, Piyush. Also with us, the senior Congress leader, former Minister Anand Sharma, with us also on this broadcast. I want to start introducing now our heavyweight industry voices. I want to begin by introducing first and foremost Ajay Sriram, Chairman and Managing Director, DCM Sriram. Also with us on this broadcast is Vikram Kirloskar, Vice Chairman, Toyota Kirloskar Motors. Also with us, Chandrajit Banerjee, DG of CII. To my immediate left, the one and only Rahul Bajaj. So welcome to have you. He says the best thing about him is his first name, and I agree with that. Welcome, Rahul. Great to have you with us on this broadcast. Also with us, President CII Sumit Majumdar. Also with us, Vijay Thadani, Vice Chairman and Managing Director, NIIT. Thank you very much for joining us. What we're hoping is that all of us together will question the netas on different aspects of this budget. And I want to start by asking the first question to Piyush Goyal on how so much of this budget in its initial part seemed to be an attempt to try and rejig the image of the Modi Sarkar. First, it was seen as a suit-boot ki sarkar. Is a deliberate attempt now being made to discard that image and don a new image of being a pro-farmer, pro-Aam Aadmi Sarkar?
Well, I think from the day we were sworn in on 26th of May 2014, we have steadfastly focused our attention on the last man standing at the bottom of the pyramid. Our ideologue Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay, who articulated Antyodaya, very clearly gave us the message that unless the most deprived sections of societies, the poor of India, rise, unless we take the benefits of growth and development to them, we will not be able to transform India. This budget is only a continuation of our efforts of the last 22 months and a reinforcement of that message, a greater thrust and commitment, particularly to rural India, in view of the distress they have had for 2 consecutive years of bad monsoon, but at the same time, laying a roadmap which very clearly talks of improving the lives of 125 crore Indians from every section of society, the common man, the middle class, and business and industry also. Because ultimately they will have to provide jobs, they will have to give growth to the economy. We don't fight shy of any section of society. So if you will see this budget, a lot of measures for tax simplifications, a lot of measures to resolve problems of the past, a huge amount of thrust on spending for rural India to grow.
Okay, let Anand Sharma respond. You're saying that the rural thrust is not new. This is what the NDA government has done in part 1 and part 2 of the budget exercise as well. Do you agree, or do you think that because of electoral reverses, an extra effort is now being made to try and appear more pro-farmer than previous?
Let me first of all make this observation, that this budget has actually disappointed. It's a painfully exhaustive compendium of platitudes and announcements. That's how I sum it up. When it comes to the shift, it's not a question of shift, it's a course correction. Because the first 2 budgets, the social sector took a hit, and the social security net that was painstakingly created over a number of years, from education to health, from women and child development, SC, tribal sub-plan, SC plan, budgetary allocations were reduced in most cases to half. Now when it comes to agriculture, it's more because of the distress in the rural sector. We have been telling this government to invest more in agriculture and also to ensure that you pay minimum support price to the farmers, particularly for those crops where India is hugely dependent on imports and where more acreage is to be brought under cultivation. So yes, agriculture, for the first time, there has been an increase in the allocation, but we will go into the details because it is the speech of the finance minister is long on announcements and short on details. Let me put it this: nobody is where, except for
long
few...
on announcement, short on details,
Yes.
compendium of platitudes, interesting.
Now let me
Yes.
tell you one thing, that farmer suicides are a fact. I'm not criticizing for the sake of criticizing. From Maharashtra to Andhra, even Punjab, Haryana, and that surely has been taken on board, I will say, by the Finance Minister. Now, when it comes to the overall objective of doubling the rural income, which should be a laudable objective, Prime Minister yesterday said in Bareilly 6 years, Finance Minister has said 5 years. For 5 years, this means every year minimum 15% increase should be there in the farmer's income, then only you double in 5 years. Now, well, we all wish and pray that that happens, but it's not going to be easy.
Okay.
Now, when you look at the other social sector areas, first of all, when you have distress in the rural area, when you have crop failures, when you have drought in many states, yes, it was a challenging time. But then Manrega was given a very bad...
I'm coming to Manrega separately. That's part 2 of our discussion. I'll get to that
I will
in a
come
moment.
to that. I will not...
You've set the stage for this debate. Let me...
What I'm also saying, that when you're saying about social sector, pro-poor, then they also need other areas of attention, particularly when it comes to education and health.
So we'll take it one by one.
When I said
You've
short on
touched on
details,
lots of things.
the
Let's take it
Finance
one by
Minister
one.
has been mum on that. He has been quiet.
Okay, let's take it one by one. I want to ask Rahul Bajaj, do you believe, sir, this is an attempt being made by both the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister to try and course correct, to try and rectify the image of this government as being a pro all of you Sarkar to being a pro poor man Sarkar?
Every budget should be. Now we'll come to whether this one is or not pro-India. You know, Piyush is a great guy, but he has to keep in mind he belongs to a party.
Of course.
And Anand is a greater guy, he's older than him, so younger than me. So he has to keep in mind he belongs to a party. But neither party has admitted me. So I speak for India. They speak for their parties, also for India maybe. This is not a suit boot ki sarkar, it was not before. It was called by the opposition, or my friend's son, Rahul Gandhi, said that. Fine, we heard about it.
Again, the same great name, like the two of you.
Yeah, his father was a friend of mine, Rajiv Gandhi, a good friend. And I took his name. My name, Rahul, was given by Jawaharlal Nehru. And that's why they couldn't give him name, but that's a separate story. He was given, I don't know by whom.
Yes,
But
let's come back to the budget.
More seriously, no. I do think that the emphasis, but I may be wrong because I'm not an expert on these matters, on rural areas, on agrarian areas, on farmers, was perhaps in the first two budgets, but July 2014 and then February was the first full budget, the second full budget, was a little less than probably what should have been. Because Make in India,
So
Start
you're
Up for
saying
India.
there is an effort there?
Of course there is an effort
to try and course correct.
I don't see anything straight for corporates, except I'm very happy with the budget because what do I need? I don't need money, I don't need tax benefit, I don't need nothing. I want demand for my products. I've got excess capacity, and when I say I mean most of us. And I'm not going to invest because Piyush says so or he says so till my excess capacity is utilized, and then there is further demand. Arun Jaitley said, you guys are private sector, you take risks. I said, we guys are private sector, we make profits. Not like your public sector. हमारे पास बाप का पैसा नहीं है, हमारे तो बाप का भी है. But more seriously, shareholder का पैसा है. So all this money that will be spent, like previous government and last 2 years of this government, delivery and implementation, there is no reason for me to believe it will be excellent, and there is no reason for me to believe it will not be proper.
Okay, Ajay
So
Shriram.
if that happens, demand gets created, and that's what we want. And then the rest are a lot of details. I don't know how much additional employment they will provide, because I have not studied the budget. Because the employment is very important. That gives me demand, and that gives them social peace.
Rahul Bajaj says that the government got unfairly labelled as being a pro-suit boot ki sarkar by the opposition, by Anand Sharma's party. Has the government gone one step too far in trying to correct that image in this budget, or do you believe that the focus to focus on
we didn't advise Rahul, the Prime
focus on
Minister,
farmers is the right
suit.
approach?
I'll put it this way. Frankly, suit boot ki sarkar or phrases used is at the political level, nothing to do with us. I must be honest. True. I think for us in industry, our focus is on what's happening in the economy, what's happening in rural India, what's happening in urban India, and what is the economic growth like. So I would say that phrase is a political jockeying which is separate. Coming to the focus on agriculture or rural India, well, I'll put it this: last year the FM did bring in the Jam Trinity. They have brought in of opening up, I think, what, 16, 17 crore bank accounts in the course of 6 months. So I think they have moved in rural India. It's not new. It is unfortunate we've had 2 years of bad monsoon. The effect is severe. I've seen it. We are in the agriculture business. I think the focus on agriculture is well deserved. It needs to be there. And I appreciate the way the FM listed it among the first items of his 9 points, gone into 14, 15 details of what all he's talking about, given some attempted direction to get the economy back on track, which is the right thing to do.
Okay, I want to come now to the second question that we'll put to all our guests, including the politicians. Has this budget done enough to restore investor confidence? That's the critical issue. The markets, remember, took a tumble before recovering. The stock markets have been down from a high of more than 29,000 to about 23,000 currently. Will we see the investment cycle pick up? And I want to put that question first to Chandrajit Banerjee. Has the budget done enough to revive investor sentiment?
See, if you see this, there are two areas of focus in the budget which is very significant. One is the rural sector, which we were just talking about, and the second is on the infrastructure sector. And infrastructure, the focus that you see on the infrastructure sector is enormous.
I'm asking here a question about whether this budget will lead to private companies wanting to invest more in the India story.
I'm just coming to that. And it is infrastructure which is the spend on the government's, the public spend on infrastructure, which is with the outlay and the increase in it, is definitely going to crowd in private sector investment. And private sector investment will not only just come into infrastructure, but private sector investment will therefore come across the sectors. So one is seeing definitely a positive move towards getting more private sector into investment, increasing the investment demand, which is important, and this is what exactly the budget has created by extra spend or by extra public spend. So obviously the budget has rightly focused on bringing back the investor sentiment. Not only that, if you see the way it has gone on let's talk about Make in India, which the Prime Minister talked about, which we sort of focused on in the last few weeks so strongly. If you see the entry of the smaller businesses to come into the Make in India, the smaller manufacturers to come into Make in India, that has also been very prudently focused upon through tax break for them to come in. So definitely, and the startups to come in. So there is a whole range in the private sector that one has looked at very prudently, I must say, in terms of getting investment from the private sector.
Mr. Vikram Kirloskar, do you believe this budget will lead to Indian industry, which maybe on camera doesn't say so, but off camera feels very wary of investing in the Indian economy, now finding their mojo back and wanting to take the risk? As Rahul Bajaj says, Baap ka paisa nahi, it's hard-earned money.
Yeah, I'd like to talk more about the auto industry and more specifically about my company. If I look at the budget on the short-term basis, I am uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable because at current times in the auto industry, we have a huge amount of money we have to spend on meeting new regulations, accelerated new regulations, on emission and safety, which would have originally been starting 2024, it's come down to 2020, so it's a huge amount of spend. And on top of that, an industry which is just recovering, and you add a 4%, 1, 2, 3, 4% tax, it is going to affect sales. So we are definitely going to be stressed on that aspect. If this extra tax, green cess or whatever it is used for removing or incentivizing scrapping of BS1, BS2 vehicles, or incentivizing electric and hybrid vehicles, then it will make some effect towards the environment and it will make sense to me. I accept that. But just like that, a tax which will go with the rest of the Ganga water,
to answer this.
I don't know.
You take on these cesses without giving the people a full account of where that cess money gets spent. Is that not a fair expectation for all of us taxpayers to know how you spent which part of the cess money?
Not at all. Look at my coal cess. I do believe you will spend. We taxed coal, and rightly so, because we're all concerned citizens of this country. We want to leave behind a better planet than what we inherited. And look at the transformation that's happening in the renewable energy sector. This year alone, we have bid out contracts worth 18,000 megawatt in solar energy. And we brought the prices down from nearly 7 or 8 rupees when we came into government to 4.5 rupees. The last tender day before yesterday, through reverse bidding, came down to 4 rupees 30 paisa. Now, we are putting good use to that money to build up transmission lines, to get a land bank, to encourage renewable energy. And mind you, the beauty of renewable energy is that it lasts you on a fixed price for 25 years. It helps create energy security for all our businesses and industry. Every bit of these cesses that we are collecting is being used, for example, the saving we got out of the Give It Up campaign is being used to provide LPG cylinders to the poor people in the rural areas so that they don't inhale all those fumes and get into health hazards.
Okay.
So every part of our saving in LED lights, we're saving thousands of crores. It's going towards helping the people reduce their bills.
No, but that's the point that Mr. Bajaj is making now. What about knowing which part of the cess money is getting spent in what fashion? That's the question. I want...
you did great, but what about this budget?
Even in this budget, the coal cess is being increased because we are looking at expanding renewable energy in a bigger way. He has continued the concession on hybrids and electric vehicles. And I personally have a dream that India should be by 2030 a 100% electric vehicle country. And in fact, I've been talking to your son about it. And it's really doable. We have enough electricity. I'm rolling out the transmission lines. I'm bringing in time of day metering, which will reduce night tariffs.
Chandrajit Banerjee has a question for you. Go ahead, Mr. Banerjee.
No, I just wanted to ask you, Mr. Minister, what about coal prices and the power of coal that's going to come on the cost of power of coal-based?
Well, let me explain to you. The 200 rupee increase in coal cess translates to a burden of about 6,000 or 7,000 crore to the power sector as a whole in a year. And per unit of electricity, it's about 12 paisa. Whereas the savings that Uday alone will give to the power sector annually will be 1,80,000 crore rupees. So I don't think if I have a saving potential of 1,80,000 crore annually, I can sacrifice 6, 7, 8,000 crore
Okay,
rupees.
Mr. Bajaj, do you believe that this budget will lead to investment cycle kicking once again? Do you see that happen?
What I said earlier, Rahul, is whether I see it or whether I'm hoping for it, but all this money being spent...
No, forget what the government is spending. I'm asking you as a corporate titan whether the willingness of Indian industry to invest in the Indian economy.
My 70% of my capacity is being utilized to make motorcycles and three-wheelers. If it is fully utilized and there is still demand, I won't let my competitors take that demand. Obviously, I want to invest money. That's my job. But if till I have idle capacity, I'll not invest. I hesitate to spend money.
And you don't see that budget changing this immediately?
No, that's what I was saying. All this money that will be spent, somebody will get it. Something will go in fixed assets, obviously, but a lot of it is not necessarily going on fixed assets. And I think that's what Finance Minister said somewhere. So it will go by providing employment. I don't know how much. There's a question mark. How much employment will be provided? We need 10 million a year. I don't know how much.
Mr. Sumit Mazumdar, do you believe that this budget will lead to Indian industry feeling more confident about the Indian economy, investing once again?
Directionally, yes. But if you think they're going to line up to invest, no.
Why not?
Because of the excess capacity that has already been built into Indian industry. You know, when we had the boom, we all built in a lot of excess capacity. Now that is lying unutilized. So while this will give a boost to demand, so the excess capacity usage must happen before extra money has been putting in.
Okay, let Piyush Goyal respond. Two top industry titans saying there's already so much excess capacity. Till the time that gets exhausted, forget about the idea of us wanting to spend more money in building new capacities.
Well, it's very logical, Rahul. If the world economy did not keep pace with our increasing capacities, or even India went through 3 or 4 years of distress from 2010 or 11 till 14, it's very obvious that the excess capacity problem conundrum is going to be there. But what do? Do we cry about it? Or do we try and generate demand so that it starts getting used? And obviously all of these are smart businessmen. As they see the green shoots coming in and demand picking up, particularly with investment in roads, particularly with investment in taking power to the villages, giving everybody 24/7 power.
Let Anand Sharma respond. The government can't do anything about the...
Obviously, they have a time lag effect. Every economy has a lag effect. They'll start investing now because they'll plan for capacities 2 years later.
Okay, let Anand Sharma respond. The government can't fix the global economy and the situation that several countries face. However, it's trying to build rural demand, and that ultimately will lead to greater demand internally for all these businessmen to start investing again and creating more jobs.
Well, this is not new wisdom which has come. After 2008-9, economic crisis and the financial crisis, that's exactly what the government did. 3.5% of the GDP went into stimulus packages, interest subventions, and rural demand was generated. And that actually led to the recovery because we rebounded very quickly. India and China were the first two economies to rebound. Now, what they are doing to stimulate demand is a positive step because rural distress would not have encouraged investors to invest more, as Rahul has rightly said, because the existing capacity utilization is not taking place. Bajaj.
It's a Bajaj.
My friend, that capacity utilization, if it is optimum utilization, definitely it will improve the health of the economy. But new investments coming in, I don't see that anything has been said or done which will lift the investor sentiment. Rahul, we must not also lose sight of the fact. A, the capital availability, movement of capital in the world is going to be very weak because of the global situation. 2016 is not a year which is bringing not a lot of hope.
So you
and
don't
promise.
see a lot of FII and FDI coming?
No, I'm saying because the flow of capital is going to be affected. It's already visible. Domestic investment sentiment, there is no FDI, no country which can invest in an economy as big as India. It has to be domestic investment. Our own industry has built India.
Okay,
so
let me
far.
put that question to Mr. Thadani.
Let me conclude. No,
do you believe
let me conclude
yes.
here. Because you have to look at the availability of capital within the country. Most of the corporates, I'm not saying all, are already indebted. Your stressed assets are over 7 lakh crores. For the recapitalization of banks, the finance minister has kept 25,000 crores.
That's a good
Maybe
point.
he does not have the money. So where is the money available for investment?
You speak about recapitalization of banks, but given the enormity of the challenge, the amount of money that's been kept is peanuts.
No, your national investment rate has fallen by 5 percentage points. 5 percentage
let
points.
Piyush respond.
Just a minute. First of all, kindly do not remind us of the past 2008-9 because you did that stimulus on the back of fiscal deficit going from 2.5% to 6.1%. And that short-term gain has caused India 6 years of pain. What finance minister has successfully done.
And let's quickly cut across to the Union Finance Minister, Arun Jaitley.
All the budget proposal. So I am first going to request each one of them to make a very brief comment in relation to the subject matter which is within their respective department. I think Mr. Wattle can start.
Thank you, sir. So we all heard your speech in the Parliament. I will just make a few points about 3 key areas which will be perhaps a matter of interest to all the media persons present over here. Number 1, the fiscal framework. Number 2, the capital expenditure by the centre. And a short comment on the major subsidies. Well, as was stated in the budget speech, for this year, this financial year, we are going to achieve the 3.9% fiscal deficit target. It has been done in a situation where we have not applied any expenditure cuts across departments. In fact, the revised estimates of the budget have been higher than what was contemplated at the beginning of the year, which is a first of its kind after many years. As far as the coming fiscal is concerned, the credibility and optimality arguments for adhering to the 3.5% of the GDP fiscal deficit have also been embedded in our exercise. We are going to adhere to it, and we have the past credibility of doing so. Even though it was difficult, we have taken a more national view and have honored our commitment to ensure that crowding out in the economy is minimized and domestic savings are available to the private sector for investments. Going forward, there will be, as far as the medium-term fiscal framework is concerned, it will be looked into because, as was mentioned in the budget speech, there is a debate about it's been 10 years old and it's performed well, the Act, and how we move forward is something will be looked into. But I may just say that we will have to look at issues of debt sustainability in terms of both stock and flow dynamics, and also, as I said, the net effect on growth through the fine balance between crowding out and crowding in of savings. This new framework does not mean that we are going to do away with fiscal balancing. The whole thing has to be looked at perhaps from a more national point of view, where we also look at fiscal deficits of states and see the whole thing more in a more combined or a holistic manner. But that will be something for this committee to decide. The other feature which I just wanted to mention to all of you is regarding the percentage of capital expenditure which we will sustain at around 12% of the GDP. And here, while you read the document, the budget documents, you should not just look at the direct capex of the central government, but you should also see at the capex transfer to the states from the center, which is basically, if you minus the revenue deficit and the ERD, the effective revenue deficit, you will get that figure. And you will find that this is a substantial figure. And last year we had attained around, or this year we are going to attain around 12%, and we are going to sustain it at that level. And the other interesting feature will be that the internal and extra budgetary resources, which is basically money coming in from the public enterprises and state-run units, that is going to be substantially increased. In the estimates of 16-17, major subsidies have been estimated around 2.3 lakh crores. That's food, fertilizer and petroleum. We are taking a large number of measures basically to see that this amount which is being given to subsidy is efficiently spent, wastages are contained, and in this context we will make all endeavors to see that as a percentage of GDP, these subsidies remain below 1.6% of the GDP. They were, in the year 2013-14, had crossed 2.15% of the GDP, and in the last 1.5 years, they have come down substantially, and which is a good thing. So, in conclusion, I may just say that the past performance from the expenditure management point of view and the quality of expenditure of the department of the government has been very good, and we will continue this process in the coming year with an emphasis on the agricultural sector, on equity and on growth. Thank you.
Secretary, Economic Affairs.
Good afternoon. Overall, if I have to describe the budget, it's a transformative budget, it's a credible budget. I would like to highlight 3 quick points. One is that while maintaining the fiscal deficit for next year at 3.5%, we have also ensured that government borrowing requirement from the market is kept at a minimal level. It's 4.2 lakh crores of rupees. While deciding this number and while working on the fiscal deficit target, we have taken into consideration issues of debt sustainability, the medium-term and long-term debt sustainability of the government, the space that is available in the market for government borrowing so that we leave adequate resources for the private sector, and the emphasis and the necessity to ensure that government borrowings are done in a very non-disruptive manner without taking away a lot of resources from the market, and we should ensure that there is enough for the private sector requirement also. The second aspect of the budget to be noted is that it has taken a very balanced approach, and it has focused on all the major challenges and the key problem areas which the economy, the macroeconomy today faces. Priority therefore has been given to issues in agriculture, rural development, infrastructure, spending on roads, railways, the social sector, and similar other areas. These are the major challenging areas today facing the economy, and they have been addressed very significantly. The third aspect I would like to highlight is that there are certain measures which is already you must be aware, but just to put things in the perspective, I think there are certain structural reform measures. The first and foremost is the reforms in the transport sector in the passenger segment. The entire system is being opening up, and there is a lot of opportunities available to improve the quality of transport for the public, the quality of road transport for the public, bring in new investments, create new jobs, and increase the overall efficiency of that sector. Targeted disbursement of subsidy by way of the Aadhaar legislation again is a huge game changer, and that will bring lot of it will prevent a lot of leakage and what I may call as a transmission loss which takes place while the government subsidies and financial benefits are transmitted to the people who actually deserve it. There is the code on the financial resolution. There is a code on the resolution of the financial companies. The bankruptcy law and is already before the Parliament. Together with the bankruptcy law, this legislation, the code on resolution of financial firms, they will fill up a systemic vacuum that exists in our economy today with regard to resolution of companies and financial institutions which are in distress. They will provide a framework for quick resolution and for quick revival, quick resolution, or for quick liquidation as the case may be. But the focus obviously will be on revival. So there are a number of measures like that. I don't want to take more time on that. So the budget has also given a lot of focus on structural reforms. We need to continue with the pace of reforms if we have to go back to 8% plus in the next few years. Thank you.
Dr. Adia, the Revenue Secretary.
Thank you, sir. My first request to all the media persons is that please go through the annexure to the budget speech, because many of the changes we have made in the indirect tax side and extensive changes have been made on the indirect tax side which affects the domestic competitiveness of Indian industry. Those changes are hidden in the annexure. So please go through the changes which are made in the indirect side in the annexure. The second thing is that you would be wondering that how is it that in spite of giving additional allocation of 15% on the plan side and also meeting the responsibility of OROP and pay commission, how is it that the finance minister has achieved this 3.5% deficit? Let me tell you that the target for revenue, tax revenue, which we have set are absolutely realistic. I'll just give you some numbers. The RE figure of the current year, the target achievement we expect is 17% as per the revised estimate. So we are expecting a growth rate of 17% in the current year, growth rate in the tax revenue. As against that, the target we have set for the next year is 11.76% only. So it is a very modest target of revenue collection that we have set for ourselves. So it is not a hyped up figure, number one. In terms of absolute number, we have set a target of 16.25 lakh crore for tax revenue. And we expect in indirect tax a growth rate of 10.8% and in direct tax 12.63%. That will be the growth rate expected. We are expecting a lower growth rate in corporate income tax, which will be 9.07%. In case of personal income tax, we are expecting an 18% growth rate in personal income tax. Now, these are some of the figures I wanted to give you. Couple of things. One is the income declaration scheme, what we call IDS. Now, that IDS is different from all other schemes in the past. As you know, in the past, there have been so many VDIS schemes in the past, but the most popular and the most yielding PDI scheme was of 1997, wherein the government got about 9,000 crore plus as tax income. Now, this scheme is different from all other schemes in the sense that in other schemes, there was no extra amount taken apart from 30% tax rate. In 97 scheme, that said that if you are an individual, pay 30% and that's it. And if you are a company, pay 35% and that's it. But normally companies don't declare the black money, only the individuals declare, so 30% was the rate taken. This time, it is different. We are saying 30% plus 7.5% penalty plus 7.5% Kisan surcharge. So a total of 45% is what they are supposed to pay. That is one. There is a limited window given for this particular IDS scheme, 1st June to 30th September. That is one. The second thing is I want to talk about is the uniform treatment for NPS and EPF and other schemes. Now there are basically three types of schemes. One is superannuation fund scheme, the other is recognized provident fund including EPF, and the third is NPS. The tax treatment for all three are different today. In case of superannuation fund, the employer's contribution up to 1 lakh is completely exempt at the time of withdrawal. So
3 major water plants have been shut down in Delhi, this time due to high ammonia levels. Major crisis in central and north Delhi. Aam Aadmi Party Minister Kapil Mishra is saying that the
पैसे वाले बाबू मेरा बजट बना दो, पैसे वाले बाबू मेरा बजट बना दो, बजट बना दो, बजट बना दो।